Hi, I'm Ed Walsh.
And I'm Thomas Hazel.
Welcome to our Embrace the Chaos event. Thanks for joining us. We put together a short event to create a consolidated overview of what we do here at ChaosSearch to help our clients solve the challenges of analytics at scale. And at scale, things can seem chaotic at times, but we're going to share some information of how to help you embrace this chaos.
And there's a reason we decided to do this at 314 on 314, because it's National Pi Day and National Butterfly Day. Both of these have something to do with embracing the chaos that Ed just talked about.
We're going to talk about Pi and Pi Day a little bit later, but first, Thomas is going to talk about butterflies and why they're important to ChaosSearch in this segment called the butterfly effect.
What does butterfly effect have to do with chaos? The answer is foundational. Everything. On a winter day some 60 years ago, an MIT professor walked out of his office to grab a cup of coffee. And when he returned, he saw something that would change how we see information, the theory thereof, and data modeling. That professor's name was Edward Lorenz, and what he discovered was what became known as chaos theory, a principle that took the concept of a disordered universe, even after Sir Isaac Newton's law of predictability, and provided methods for understanding and assessing future states of complex systems over time. How did this happen? Well, Lorenz was running a weather simulation on his LibreScope General Purpose Model 30 computer, or LGP30 for short. He decided to rerun a calculation from the middle of the run to save some time. So Lorenz entered the data from a previous printout and typed 0.506 for one of his variables. What he didn't know at the time, and what he discovered, was that the printer only output 3 decimal places, and the LGP30 used 6. What's the difference between 0.506 and 0.506127? As it turned out, a lot, because his new calculations were completely different every time he ran the program. And it wasn't the computer, it was the data. And what all of us learned that day was that a difference, no matter how small, has a big consequence. And this is where chaos theory begins. However, it is often thought that this theory is more about randomness of our world, but in actuality, it's the acknowledgement that there are patterns in complex systems. As Jane Glick, a well-known author, famously said, chaos is order masquerading as randomness. So, how do we know about it? Around the same time, emerging experts across disciplines like physics, mathematics, biology, astrophysics started to discover similar disorders in their work depending on the data input. Lorenz's paper began to circulate in these groups, lending insights and validations to their research. Fast forward to December 29, 1972, in the Wilmington Room of the Sheraton Park Hotel in Washington, D.C. It's the 139th meeting of the American Association for the Advancement of Science, and Professor Edward Lorenz is going to give a lecture with another catchy little title, Does the Flap of a Butterfly's Wing in Brazil Set Off a Tornado in Texas? And bang, we have the butterfly effect. To be honest, he was just being provocative, but the concept stuck. Little things, or provision versus approximation, can have big effects, especially when it comes to data and at scale, like the weather, economic forecasting, or biology. And that's what happened over the next 20 years. Leaders in math and science embraced the theory that unified all the chaos they had been experiencing in their own research. Lorenz was able to illustrate a simple 3-point formula model of gas moving from hot to cold, just like the weather we experience every single day, just like the cup of coffee we drink every morning. What does this all mean? To me and everyone at ChaosSearch, it means all aspects of information are critical, from initial conditions to final state. Every detail, no matter how small, can have a massive impact on companies' productivity, profitability, and most importantly, security. It's why ChaosSearch exists. It's what we help our clients manage every day. That's why we embrace the chaos. Happy Butterfly Day.
love how you tied the butterfly effect into what we do, which you see every single day. The idea of how we help our clients cost effectively bring all their data together, the initial conditions, and also how they do correlate across those to get the insights they need for the business. It's about getting those insights.
Well, at Chaos, we're always looking for the answers. And speaking of answers, that's exactly what Ed's going to talk about next.
Observability is critical to running any modern business system. Microservices-based architectures are great because they scale and leverage cloud-native primitives, but the distributed nature of these architectures make them challenging to monitor and troubleshoot. There are many more services to monitor than with classic architectures. Additionally, they generate a tremendous amount of data, making it hard to sift through and more expensive to analyze. The full stack observability solutions in the market allow clients to centralize all their logs, metrics, and traces in one platform. However, the reality for most companies is a growing cost of these solutions actually stop companies from analyzing all their data. When push comes to shove, budgets have the upper hand, which means there's a constant trade-off between cost and the amount of data companies can analyze. Logs are a great example of this sacrifice. Metrics and traces are relatively small data when compared to log data. These observability stacks are built to provide monitoring and alerting over relatively small data sets. These architectures simply were not built for the scale of log retention. Logs just bloat these environments, hurt overall performance, and dramatically drive up the cost of these environments. So these platforms typically limit log retention to less than 30 days and charge a lot of money for relatively small log retention. The costs of these solutions mean that the customers are actually trying to reduce log coverage and log retention to avoid huge bills, which is at odds with supporting the business. Here's how ChaosSearch solves the observability crisis. Keep your data, keep all your data, keep your monitoring tools, and centralize your logs with unlimited data retention using ChaosSearch. Get true observability at a fraction of the cost. It works like this. If you're using a tool like Datadog, simply limit the time of log retention and use ChaosSearch for the longer duration analytics and save from 30 to 50%. Or use ChaosSearch for all your log analytics and save 50 to 80%. The math is simple and the savings are clear. 80 cents a gigabyte with ChaosSearch for unlimited retention, or 30 days retention with Datadog for $2.50 a gigabyte. And that $2.50 a gigabyte goes to $3.75 if you go over your initial plan. And the change is easy on your end users. Simply limit Datadog for 3 or 7 days of log retention and use Datadog as you would today. If you want to look at logs over a longer duration or deeper into the log data, there's a simple button on your Datadog screen that allows you to automatically open a Discover pane in ChaosSearch, including your time range and filters. Simple but powerful integration allows your users to keep Datadog but get unlimited log retention while saving money with minimal changes to the workflow. ChaosSearch also works with Grafana. Grafana lets you connect to external data sources per data type, so you can have a single observability user interface and high-performance database approach. One of Grafana's connectors is Elasticsearch, and ChaosSearch supports the Elasticsearch API, so you can use it as a source for log analytics inside Grafana and keep your centralized observability user interface. Also, providing Kibana in your console, ChaosSearch allows you to perform deeper analytics like wildcard searches and aggregations in your logs. This enhances the filter set you have in Grafana. ChaosSearch's unlimited retention makes your logs and other telemetry more powerful, giving you better insights with Grafana. Keep the tools your team excels with, like Datadog, New Relic, and Grafana. Just use ChaosSearch to centralize your ever-expanding volumes of log and event data and save 30 to 80%.
That was excellent. Let's hear how our client, DigiRiver, put that simple map to work in their favor.
From our perspective, because their self-managed solutions were costly and difficult to maintain, we made a conscious decision to limit our data retention in generally 7 days. But in a lot of cases, it was 0. We just couldn't consume that log data because of the cost. in maintaining it. So because of this limit, we've lost important data points used for incident triage, problem management, trending, and other things too. If there was, lower priority incident, for example, and people didn't get to it till 8-9 days later, well, all the breadcrumbs are gone. So it was really just kind of the best guess, or the incident really wasn't resolved. We didn't find a root cause. So last year we had a huge project. So we have our elk stack, and it's probably from a decade ago, right? And we went through a whole project to get that upgraded and migrated over. And it was just, we found it impossible internally to do, right? And so this was a method for us to get out of that business, to get rid of the security risk, the support risk, and have a way for people to easily migrate over. And it was just a nightmare here, consolidating the data across regions. So that was a huge thing. But yeah, it was also then the cost, right? It was, we're finding it cheaper to use ChaosSearch and have more data available.
Just the dollar standpoint here too, we're looking at hundreds of thousands of dollars, which is huge for us, and it's a great savings annually here too.
ChaosSearch has offered us a manageable and cost-effective opportunity to store months or even years of data that we can use for operations, as well as trending, automation, and really the big thing that we're pushing into is an event-driven architecture so that we can proactively manage our services.
I love that story from Digital River. It really plays a butterfly effect, and how at a certain point, if it doesn't have the data, all the breadcrumbs are gone. It really plays to this initial condition. If you don't have it, you can't apply and get insights.
That's a great point. Let's talk about data lakes and how ChaosSearch can keep your data fresh and accessible.
Security. Long gone are the days in which an IT administrator has full control over the infrastructure. With the internet, we vastly improved connectivity, expanded the attack surface. With the consumerization of enterprises, we lost control over the endpoints. And with the emergence of microservices architecture, we ballooned the complexity. And yet, the prevailing security tools are still SIEMs, based on the same foundational technology that attempts to ingest data quickly and alert as fast as possible on potential threats and breaches as they happen. So what's the problem? Money. The cost of operating SIEMs is unsustainable because a number of logs generated has grown exponentially, but the budgets haven't, and threats have become more complex. Advanced persistent threats touch multiple systems and take, on average, 9 months or longer to detect. And even when the threat is detected, some data may need to be pulled from archive, or worse yet, unavailable. Adding to the problem, many companies use our SIEM solutions to house log data from non-security use cases, ballooning their costs. The solution? ChaosSearch powered security data lakes. Complement your SIEM and XDR solutions by using ChaosSearch for unlimited log retention. The security data lake allows you to threat hunt and identify the security incident's root causes without sacrificing retention, keeping your team proactive and agile while exploring potential system risks, all while reducing costs. Secondly, keep non-security log data available to observability or software developers or the SRE team, but keep this data out of the security platform. Logs just bloat these environments, hurt performance, and dramatically drive up the cost of these environments. Keep your SIEM for the workflows that matter. The savings are clear. Sumo Logic starts at $3 a gigabyte. Splunk starts at $2.20 a gigabyte. ChaosSearch starts at 80 cents a gigabyte with unlimited retention and also further discounts at scale. Additionally, if your use case involves high ingest but really ad hoc querying, we have our pricing based solely on compute resources used. Stop spending your budget on tooling. Use it to keep threats out of your system. Adopt a security stack that gives you the ability to detect issues as they arise and automate response across systems, think SIEMs, and centralize all your logs with unlimited retention, think ChaosSearch, so you can detect vulnerabilities before they happen and identify the root cause when they do. Centralize your log data. Keep all your data. You can stay on budget and keep your data as long as you need to. all while saving 50 to 80% hard dollars.
You hit the nail on the head. But is it really possible to centralize your log data, keep all of it, and stay on budget? Let's hear from a client who was able to do all of that.
Excited to be talking about log analytics and how much ChaosSearch has helped us scale our data lake. So just by way of background for Transio, our overarching mission is to eliminate the pencil and paper gaps in educational systems. And what that looks like in reality is storing a lot of data for school districts, because everything that's on paper right now can be converted to some kind of electronic digital process. Now, we're part of a new ed tech product category that's been emerging over the last few years called readiness solutions. We pull together all of these disparate data points that schools are housing on students and show it to students in a really consumable and digestible way for them to understand, how close am I to graduation? What am I falling off track by picking a particular class or what have you. And so by doing that, you can just kind of start to grasp the sheer amount of data that we're pulling in per student, per district across the country at scale, and why logging started to become really, really critical for us. One thing to note here is that we manage mission critical educational processes. There are very tangible real life impacts if we don't do something right. And those impacts can look as deep as a student doesn't get into college because we didn't deliver a transcript correctly, or the job application that they were counting on for post-secondary plans falls through because we didn't help them do it in time, right? So there are really mission critical things for student success that we're helping facilitate. And so having visibility and having reliability and knowing that we can sleep at night, kind of with the understanding that things are working as they should, is really important to us. But we offer retention for data and for logs up to our longest customers requirement. So our longest customers data requirement right now is holding on to data 7 years post-graduation. Before ChaosSearch, we had kind of this mismanaged way of bringing all these different items together. So logging was done differently for each feature. So all of our different kind of outposts had different standards and different formats, and depending on what the team needed and what type of data we needed to analyze. And then we were also constantly flipping between providers, looking for solutions that met cost-effective requirements, but also, could start to kind of grasp what this retention commitment actually meant to us. It was truly a mess. Like, we were really kind of at our wits' end looking for a solution that was going to actually bring all this stuff together. We did consider spinning up a self-managed elk stack. It really struggles at scale with that retention and that historical data. It's fine for spinning something up to analyze, really hot data that's hot for like a day, and then it needs to get flushed out of that system so that it can stay hot and stay cost effective, because standing up those stacks yourself is something that was just going to break the bank for us. So we were truly lost looking for the right solution. And then perhaps most importantly, in a sense, it couldn't break the bank, right? We were, although logging is absolutely one of the foremost things that we care about, our current logging environment is much better and much healthier than our previous logging environment. ChaosSearch met all of those needs and then more. We stream our logs directly from our Kubernetes infrastructure right into our S3 buckets, which is amazing, by the way, because when we were setting up our new DevOps environment, we had engineers basically saying, like, why would we do that? Like, why not just ship it to this? Like, why go to the extra effort of setting up a FluentD connector to move things into S3? And they're all sold now. It didn't take long for them to really see the value of why we were doing that. And then the cool thing is that we don't really have to worry about those retention policies being managed by us anymore, because S3 has all of that built in. Our developers can actually iterate faster now because they're able to access real life production logs around certain features and around certain capabilities that they previously couldn't. And so they can actually make decisions about new architecture components or refactoring that are backed up by data. And that's really at the core of everything we're doing. On a super tangible level, some recent technical diligence that we had went way faster because we own our logs. Usually that's not something that ed tech companies are really thinking about. And so making this move actually led to a faster turnaround time for us on that tech diligence, which was really exciting. For the cost savings that you get for a solution like ChaosSearch, with a different company you would pay ridiculous amounts of money for, that's incredibly appealing for a company that is dealing with intense data security and data governance requirements, but also not a super big company, right? We can't afford enterprise contracts. So this is exactly right. And it's exactly one of the reasons that we were so drawn to ChaosSearch.
I love the Transio value prop and story, and Jimmy did a great job, but it really does bring in the butterfly effect. Even says the initial conditions, a transcript. If you don't have it in the package, they don't get into college. Imagine the ripple effect, the butterfly effect, that person's life and their family's life. It's amazing. Now, I've also heard you go through the Rosetta Stone and how that plays. Let's go to that clip.
At ChaosSearch, we have a mantra: keep all your data. Why? Because more often than not, data has value, has meaning, certainly at some point in time. And until that moment, data can look worthless, even chaotic without the right context. A perfect example is the Rosetta Stone. If you're not familiar with the story, it is an absolutely incredible one. Over thousands of years, from the pharaohs of ancient Egypt to Alexander the Great, to Napoleon, to its current home in the British Museum. The Rosetta Stone represents a data journey that unlocks the secrets of an entire civilization. And it was almost thrown away. In 1799, Napoleon was in the midst of an invasion of Egypt. And in the course of building a fort there, soldiers found a 1,600-pound slab of rock. They used it to repair a wall. Fortunately, one of the officers recognized that this slab was something that needed to be rescued. It was shipped to France, and copies were made and widely distributed. Researchers everywhere attempted to decode this amazing three-part text. One section was hieroglyphics, one section was Egyptian demonic, and the last section was ancient Greek. No one knew what demonic, and certainly the hieroglyphs, were a mystery. But the Greek section was still something people could translate. And the last line of the Greek text gave an important clue. It said that all texts contained the same message. In the end, two scholars separated by Napoleon's defeat at Waterloo solved half the puzzle each. On the British side, the legendary British polymath Thomas Young, aka the last man who knew everything, figured out in 1816 that the name Ptolemy was featured in all three texts, and that solving the demonic middle section text was the key to understanding the hieroglyphics. In 1818, these revelations were published in an article called Egypt in the Encyclopedia Britannica. Across the English Channel in France, his former protege, Jean-Francois Champollion, read the article and used his recent passion for the Coptic language to translate the demonic text and finally unlock the secret to the hieroglyphics. Champollion said, "Hieroglyphic writing is a complex system, a script all at once figurative, symbolic, and phonetic, in one and the same text, in one and the same sentence, and I might even venture, in one and the same word." He figured out that there are 4 reading and writing directions based on the position of the objects in the hieroglyphics. And to add another level to it, hieroglyphics are designed to be aesthetically pleasing, which results in abbreviations, extensions, and other creative license. And it supports one of our principles at ChaosSearch. All data is critical, even in its raw format. Any change or translation removes insights. It's necessary to decode these mysteries. This one stone, seemingly insignificant, allowed us to understand the correlation between this undiscovered language with current language, if you will, streams of ancient information. The idea that all information matters is clear. The ability to correlate across these streams is the all-important clarity, the insight. What does this mean to you? Everything. Where is your Rosetta Stone? What will it unlock in your company? Who knows? One thing I know is you'll never find out if you throw it away.
I love how you tie the Rosetta Stone into technology. And we do see it. They take the initial conditions and they're doing joins, technical term, but they're correlating these things to get deeper application insights. And in general, we see other people normalizing their data and not allowing to get that direct correlation, which we do naturally.
Real world, real data, you lose any of it, you lose insights. Whether it's Transio, Digital River. But here's the thing, when you have all that data, you have deeper application insights, predictive, product development, all these things are really crucial to business and business value.
In fact, let's go to a short segment directly on that topic. With the digital economy, every company is a software company. And in software companies, telemetry is a data that holds key insights over user behaviors. It holds insights over what features are relevant, what power users even look like, how usage evolves over time, and when it's the right time to engage the users to either convert, upsell, or turn them into a champion for your product. Product insights are key leading indicators for everything related to users, but analyzing telemetry isn't that easy. First, it's typically locked within engineering or IT. Most companies still deal with telemetry as operational data, leading to either a gap of insights on the business side or a challenging process of the business analysts constantly asking for reports that both create toil on the IT side and are never quite up to date. Additionally, because observability tools charge per volume and retention, data is typically not available after a certain time period. And because they're focused primarily on monitoring and troubleshooting, they don't allow for relational analytics across different data sets, which are typically required in business analytics. Second, application telemetry is constantly changing. The faster your software developer teams moves, the faster its logging and metrics are likely to evolve. This is challenging for traditional data warehousing type solutions, which are based upon strict relational schema to handle this type of data. This leads to a pipeline process which attempts to both create aggregations and transformations of data in a format that can be easily handled by the data warehouse. This involves a batch process, leading to slow time to value, and requires transformations and aggregations to be predefined, hampering the ability of the business users to constantly explore new data as it's generated. The solution, well, the ideal solution has been identified a long time ago. It's called the data lake. That's what led to the emergence of Hadoop, the ability to centralize all your data in a cheap data storage and analyze it performantly. The problem? The technology never delivered on its promise. And in the meantime, the pace of innovation has increased dramatically. So now the data lake is not enough. You need a real-time data lake so you can centralize all your data and analyze it as it's being generated, so you can be data-driven and move faster as an organization. ChaosSearch makes a real-time data lake possible today. Once we ingest your telemetry, it's immediately available for analysis, not just via Elasticsearch APIs and Kibana, but also via SQL API. So business users can use the tools they're used to. This unleashes the value of telemetry for the business user, so they can have real-time access to all usage data on the platforms and explore it in its raw format, so you don't lose any information in pre-aggregation or pipelines. This is how you empower a data-driven and product-led organization. This delivers on the true promise of what Gartner's calling applied observability. But it doesn't have to stop there. This builds on a foundation for delivering on the promise of data lakes. One unified source of truth, without format or retention limits, which is governed and accessible by multiple stakeholders, in the type of analytics and the languages and virtualizations they require in real time.
One unified source of truth, that's our goal. It's a goal of all our clients.
You can't be efficient if your data is everywhere. And one person that knows that well is Kevin Miller, VP and GM of AWS S3. In fact, let's go to a segment.
Increasingly, I think the real emphasis is around business transformation. What can I do with this data that's very unique and different, that unlike prior optimizations where it would just reduce the bottom line, they're saying, what can I do that will actually drive my top line more? I think that, ChaosSearch, again, I would just say is a good example of, the kind of software that I think helps go upstack, automate some of that data management, and just help customers focus really specifically on the things that they want to accomplish for their business. Customers want to reduce the time it takes to get to a tangible result that affects the business, that improves their business. And so that's one of the things that excites me about what ChaosSearch is doing here specifically, is that automatic indexing, and being able to take the data as it is in their bucket, index it, and keep that index fresh, and then allow for the customers to innovate on top of that and to try to experiment with a new capability, see what works, and then double down on the things that really do work to drive that business.
I love every time I hear from Kevin Miller. One, he's driving such a good roadmap for all of our clients. I love it, but also he's so thoughtful. I love how he talks about you need to reduce the time to get tangible insights, and also how you can drive the top line. I love how he does it, and thank you for all you do for us with S3. Now let's transition. We also were involved with a really good event called SuperCloud, driven by the Wikibon team. They must have had 50, really the industry who's who on data analytics, and I thought it was really interesting. In fact, let's go to a short take from that event.
Smart object storage can be programmable, and so we agree with Bob, but we're not saying do it here, this core fundamental layer across regions, across clouds that everyone has, simple in. Right now, it's hard to get data in for access, for analysis. So we said simple in will automate the entire process, give you API access across regions, across clouds. And again, how do you do a distributed join that's fast? How do you do a distributed join that doesn't cost you an arm or a leg? And how do you do it at scale? And that's where we've been focused.
So prior to the cloud object store was a niche.
Yeah.
S3 obviously changed that. How standard is essentially object store across the different cloud platforms? Is that a problem for you? Is that an easy thing to solve?
Let's talk about it. I mean, fundamentally, we've abstracted, but fundamentally, cloud object storage, put, get, and list. That's why it's so scalable, because it doesn't have all these other components. That complexity is where we have moved up and provide direct analytical API access. So because of its simplicity and cost and security and reliability, it can scale naturally across. I mean, really, distributed object storage is easy. It's put, get, anywhere. Now, what we've done is we put a layer of intelligence, called smart object storage, where access is simple. So whether it's multi-region, do a query cross, or multi-cloud, do a query cross, or hunting, searching.
We've had clients doing Amazon and Google. We have some Azure, but more, we see Amazon and Google more, and it's a consistent service across all of them. Just literally put your data in the bucket of choice or folder of choice. Click a couple buttons, literally click that to say that's hot, and after that it's hot. You can see it, but we're not moving data. There's a data gravity issue. That's the other bad. Yeah. It's already natively flowing to these pools of object storage across different regions and clouds. We don't move it. We index it right there. We're spinning up stateless compute, back to the supercloud concept. But now that allows us to do all these other things, right?
And so it's no longer just cheap and deep.
We're making it the same. Like you have an analytic platform, regardless of where you're at. You don't have to worry about that. Yeah, we deal with that. We deal with the stateless compute coming up.
And make it programmable. Right? Be able to say, I want this bucket to provide these answers. Right? That's really the hope, the vision, and the complexity to build the entire stack and then connect them together. We said the fabric is cloud storage. We just provide the intelligence on top. SuperCloud has a lot of chaos and a lot of butterfly effects, a lot of streams of information. As we were indicating, a lot of correlation is required.
I thought it was a great event. In fact, if you haven't seen it, go check out SuperCloud. The takes there are unbelievable. Which takes us back to why we call this event Embrace the Chaos.
Your data is key to solving the problems and finding the opportunities in your company. And if you want to know more, reach out to us.
In fact, we're available to connect with you or your team to explain how ChaosSearch can make your life a little less chaotic.
So thanks for joining us. We'll see you soon.